What's going on, everybody? Rob Ferretti here, and I've been renting cars for 20 years. Now, some cars are better than others, and every car that I get isn't necessarily something that I like, but it is something that the market is dictating that they want, and it's my job to provide it. So, there is one specific car in 20 years of rental car knowledge, or one specific make, that doesn't live up to the hype, right? Which one do you think that is? You've got Porsche, you've got Lamborghini, you've got Chevrolet. That's not even a rental car, but you've got Ferrari, you've got Aston Martin, Audi, Land Rover, Mercedes. The answer is Aston Martin. And I think the biggest problem you have with Aston Martin is James Bond. Because James Bond is very buttoned up, very sophisticated. And these are not. Like, these have hints of being awesome. Like, they sound good, they look good, they look incredible, sounds very good, and that's where it stops. Everybody builds up this James Bond, I'm putting on a tuxedo and driving around my Aston Martin illusion into their head, and they think it's going to be something that it's not, and when it doesn't deliver, they're let down. And that's the problem. The problem is the fantasy, right? You think that this is going to be such an incredible experience, and then you get in it, and it's like, well, like the brakes squeak, or it's lungy. It doesn't accelerate smoothly. And that's not what you're thinking when you watch James Bond go ripping around a turn and like, ooh, look at that outside of the casino. And it's just not the way it is in real life. Now, I'm not using this one specific car, right? It's just annoying me today. But in general, everybody, I've had DBS Volantes, which is convertible. I've had DB9s, which are terrible. I've had Vanquishes. I've had a couple of those. So I've had lots of Aston Martins because the market wants them. Like, people call up, and when they want an Aston Martin, I got to give them an Aston Martin. But it's not a car that's ever delivered. It's always a car that's frustrated me. And I showed you the gas cap going wrong on this car. Right now, this car is giving me a headache because the seat is not working properly and the mirror is not working properly. So it's never really a reliability thing. The only reliability issues I had with Aston Martins were the 06 Vanquishes I had, because I had two of them, and the clutches, when they went, would take out the entire transmission. The transmission was like 30 grand. But if you look at the car itself is very, very pretty, right? Like, it does. This car photographs well. It's got like these nice suede seats and leather, and everything looks nice, and you feel all 007 when you're in it, and it sounds wicked cool. But that's where it stops. I mean, the lines on it, like, it's a gorgeous car to have in your garage. But second to the Celine S7, this is probably and Celine is just a small manufacturer. This is probably one of the biggest letdown brands that exists. See, I'll give you the 0.5 here. Like, solid cockpit. But now, what's annoying me is the mirror. See here? You can see the little mirror. See that? It's left. Toggle. That's right. The mirror goes out and in. Ready? Goes left. Goes right. But it doesn't go up and down. And that's annoying, right? Like, it's one of those things. It's just, those are the stupid things that break on cars like this. And here's the problem with the mirror. This goes behind the glass here, and this articulates where the mirror goes. Yeah, try not to get that light. And this thing right here, what do you think this thing costs? Yeah, $2,000. $2,000 is just the thing that moves the mirror. The glass is another $500, which luckily we don't need. But yeah, that's a frustrating thing. Now, I said it sounded cool, right? Let's give it, got a little bit of love in the Doesn't like the static revs. But it's definitely got some good bark to it. It's a fun car. I drove this up in Canada, not the specific one, but I drove the same one up in Canada. But the things you have to do are the shocks, see right there? And then you have to do the sports settings. And that really, that livens up the car. And that's that whole like popping sound. But again, it's looking good and sounding good isn't the problem. It's just the little stuff that breaks. And the fact that it's not the best vehicle. Let me just make it quiet again. I've always disliked these buttons. This is a fancy automatic, and you push it and drive, and it sort of like lurches forward. It's got 17,400 miles on it. But one of the biggest complaints people have is the brakes squeak, and it sounds like a dump truck. And that's just every Aston Martin I've ever had has been like that, the brakes squeak. I don't know why. It could have 2,000 miles, and I bought this car with 4,000 miles on it. Brakes still squeak. That's the way it is. That's what you get with Aston Martin. And the fact that this is the way the cars are, and that's just the way it is, right? The brakes are going to squeak, little things are going to break, and that's what hurts the ultimate value of the car. And that's also what impacts the ownership experience, right? Especially when these things are out of warranty. You don't want to deal with these little headaches. And even when it works perfectly, it's just, it hits on some notes and falls flat on the others. And that's a problem. And then the brakes, you can only get the brakes through Aston Martin. So getting new brakes and them squeaking doesn't work, right? So if anyone has aftermarket Aston Martin brakes that don't squeak, I'm all for it. Like, I don't like doing aftermarket parts on cars, but if the factory ones squeak and there's a better option out there, I will do that. But the reason I don't generally do aftermarket stuff is because nobody can ever say, if I put aftermarket brakes on it and it squeaked, then people will be like, oh, this guy's got cheap aftermarket brakes on the car. But the factory brakes are the problem. That's the problem. This car, it's just so frustrating to me. And I would never own one, but I love the way they look. And I've had great experiences with them, and people love renting them. It's just not for me. Now, there are other brands that you hate to own, like Maserati or McLaren, but those are for different reasons. Those are not because the experience of driving them and owning them is not very good. Those are generally because the reliability and then the depreciation on those are significant, right? Like, nobody wants to spend $330,000 for a McLaren and put 25,000 miles on it over 5 or 6 years and then find out it's worth 110, right? That's not fun. When all your buddies are buying Ferraris and Lamborghinis and you put 30,000 miles on your Ferrari and you sell it for MSRP, right? Like, it's like you've owned it for free for 30,000 miles. Stuff like that is incredible. But you don't get that with a lot of cars that are not so good. And the Aston Martins, the depreciation is not the heaviest, but it's also not very good. They do depreciate pretty significantly. So if you're going to buy one, definitely buy it on the secondary market, because you're going to save yourself a lot of money by doing so. And then they're relatively stable, right? I don't foresee these cars going down to $30,000, but this will be a $50,000 car one day, right? When it's got 60,000 miles on it. I did the video, you remember, on the gas cap, right? That went viral when I broke it down. So I make a video. The video goes on YouTube. That gets cut up, goes onto Facebook as a short form video. Then it comes back. It goes on YouTube Shorts. It goes on TikTok and everything. I put the video of the gas cap on here when the guy went through the tank of gas in like 80 miles. He had a good experience. I didn't really care. I had a fine experience. But the way it was cut, people are like, oh my God, you're renting out broken cars and you're not telling people. I'm like, actually, I'm not. Like, it's like the guy had the car for one day, he had a full tank of gas, wasn't expecting to use it. People started leaving reviews on my Gotham Dream Cars, the Google reviews, about me renting broken cars. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, that's not a broken car. Like, having a gas cap that doesn't work, you just have to pop it open. But if the guy has the car for one day and he's going to Manhattan, I don't have to tell him the gas cap. I wasn't expecting him to go through a tank of gas in 65 miles or whatever it was. So I don't have a problem with that. He didn't have a problem with that. He had a great experience, great rental. I had no qualms with the way he was driving it. And then people have to go on and make these negative reviews, and it's very, very frustrating because the customer had a good experience. The business didn't have a problem with it, but the internet did. It's one of those things that, and it's got 7 or 8 million views. So like there's 10 reviews or something like that at 8 million views, not a big deal. But like you could see like a concerted effort to like, let's leave negative reviews for this guy in like a comment, and then people follow along with it. It's one of those things that's so annoying. It's like spraying like an animal on the other side of a fence because you know he can't do anything. You're not a customer. If you're not a customer, why are you leaving a review for a business? That's annoying. So if you think I rent broken cars, how have I been in business for 20 years? Everybody has great experiences, but then you have a plethora of negative reviews. So if you think Rob's an honest businessman, go ahead and leave a positive review, right? Because it would be the same premise. And I'm all for free speech, and I'm all for you saying like, you know what, I don't like that dude's hair, so I'm not going to rent from him. Just put it out there. But don't pretend like you're a customer. Don't say like you've had a bad experience because you haven't rented from me. That's very frustrating. But you don't realize the impact you have on a company when you leave a negative review, because that makes because we don't ask customers for reviews. We're not the company that says like, if you had a great experience, you come back, you give us more money. That's how I'm in business for 20 years. I'm not out there saying like, hey, do you mind leaving us a review? Yeah, like I don't do that. I don't want to hound my customers for reviews, but we don't have as many reviews as people that are out there actively soliciting them. So when I get 10 or 15 negative reviews in the course of 5 days, it lowered my ranking. I went from like 4.4 down to like 3.6, wherever the hell it is now, 3.6. That's effed up. So positive reviews are welcome. Honest reviews are also welcome. If you have a valid review, I'm happy to have it, but I prefer that reviews, and this is a problem with review sites, be based off of actual customers. People that A, can afford to do it, and B, have experienced something. Like I could say, I went to go stay at the Four Seasons, but they charged 3 times as much as the Ritz-Carlton next door, so I went to the Ritz-Carlton. But I wouldn't leave a negative review on the Four Seasons. I would leave a positive review on the Ritz-Carlton and said they were 1/3 of the price of the Four Seasons. We had a great experience. We spent the money and we got to experience what the product was. So that's my little sidebar rant for reviews. But Aston Martin, this one obviously, I think I'm going to keep this till the end of the year and then sell it. I've been thinking about selling it, but then the value went down while it was sitting around. That little COVID bump went away, and people still enjoy it. It's a good car for the dream car tours. It's just not all it's cracked up to be, right? It's not what the James Bond illusion comes in your head. So people generally are disappointed. Some people love it, right? But in the long run, the reason these values go down is because more people that drive it are underwhelmed by it. Even though it's exactly what Aston Martin made, it's not what you've built up in your head with James Bond. So James Bond actually killed the Aston Martin as a brand, even though he's the reason the brand is so popular. Think about that. Rob Ferretti, thank you for watching. See you next time.